Hello, everybody, and welcome back to IGN Live's Summer Entertainment Preview. And you know what? It's time to preview some summer entertainment. Well, it might actually not be coming out this summer, but the year is half over, and there are lots more big movies still on the way. So joining me to talk about the movies we are most psyched about, Akeem Lawanson and Brian Altano. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So movies are back, be they in theaters or on the smattering of streaming services. So I figure we could start out by talking about some of the big blockbusters we're going to see across both of those platforms later this year. Some of these we've been waiting a while for. Some of these are actually super brand new things. To name a few, we've got James Gunn's The Suicide Squad very soon on HBO Max and in theaters. Eventually, we're getting Daniel Craig's final outing as 007 in No Time to Die. And then we're also getting 4 Marvel movies, 3 of which are the next MCU installments. And then there's Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which is off in the Sony Cinematic Spider-Verse because of legal reasons. Brian, let's start off with you. What are you most excited about seeing?
I want to talk about Suicide Squad first because this movie just looks like exactly what I want from a comic book movie. It's fun. It's sort of like over the top, violent. A few years back, director James Gunn was, kind of unceremoniously fired from Marvel, went over to DC to make the Suicide Squad. He's since been unfired and is now making Guardians 3. But until then, Suicide Squad is basically, just this giant collection of AAA celebrities who are all going to go on a mission together, many of which will die or explode or get eviscerated or blown up into smithereens. I'm really excited to see the adventure they go on here. I think that he's going to tap into his horror roots a little bit. James Gunn's done some really cool movies in the past. And I really like when comic book movies don't sort of like take themselves too seriously. They're not part of like these massive, sprawling, interconnected universes. There'll be a little bit of that here. But this is just going to be a fun comic book movie, and I cannot wait for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm super stoked for this. The vibe I'm kind of getting is that this is going to be to the David Ayer Suicide Squad as Deadpool 2 was to X-Men Origins Wolverine. You've got some returning cast members, some familiar faces, but the people behind the wheel are driving considerably more on the road than previous people. Akeem, what about you? What are you most excited about?
Well, jumping over to the Marvel side of things, although I'm super excited for a Suicide Squad, I'm here for Shang Chi and the Eternals, honestly, just because I'm curious to see what type of gas is left in the tank for the MCU in Phase 4. Like if it's premium, if it's ultimate, I don't know what they're working with anymore. I think, and I don't know if this is like the general consensus, but like I feel like a lot of us have been going through superhero fatigue at this point. But I'm excited for Spider-Man No Way Home, not because I need another Spider-Man movie in my life. I don't. I just really want to see if the rumors of them exploring like the Spider-Verse is actually going to happen, or, if they'll rope in like the Spider-Man of Christmas Past, like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. I just really want them to kind of give us something different and unexpected for this particular outing. And of course, this is like Tom Holland's last outing as Spider-Man in the Sony deal that he had, with one more scheduled appearance in the MCU left in his contract obligation. So, we don't know what will happen with the Spider-Man property moving forward from here. So, they got to give us something good, like go out with a bang or a thwip, whatever the sound is that the
I believe that's
thing makes.
Yeah. That's the terminology. That's a really good point. I really hope we can keep Tom Holland around for some more Spider films. He's so good, but also seeing the Spiders-Men pop up in that movie will be cool. And also, Doctor Strange is going to show up, which is that's a good Marvel team up right there. Now, speaking of people who are on their last outing because of contractual obligations, Daniel Craig, I maintain, is the best Bond to date. All due respect to Sean Connery, but I think he's completely nailed it. So I'm dying to see No Time to Die. I wasn't dying to see it enough to actually go see it in theaters because that would really be No Time to Die. But it's been a weird time. I also I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do sort of his little swan song there. Marvel stuff is so weird right now because, again, Spider-Man is a regardless of how weird they're going to get, is a super known quantity. But I feel like with Shang-Chi and Eternals, like it's completely kind of untested waters, and it's going to be curious to see how Marvel kind of gets people excited about those properties. Now, of course, no movie season would be complete without a bunch of stuff that we've seen before that has been repackaged and rebooted as an exciting new thing that is sort of new to us. There's a bunch of sort of reimaginings, reboots, rebookwals, and so on. Brian, which of these many things are you most excited about?
Well, when something dies and returns from the grave, as is usually the case with movies in this category, they don't always get a title like Afterlife, and also have the word ghost in it. But Ghostbusters Afterlife, I have a feeling is going to be a really fun movie. This is a franchise that's always been sort of near and dear to me. I love the animated show as a kid, the toys. I had the glow-in-the-dark bed sheets that were probably toxic and bad for me. But I loved the movies growing up. And then we got that reboot thing a few years ago. It felt totally flat for a lot of people. But I think a big part of that problem was that they catered to that movie to 30, 40-year-olds, and recentering the Ghostbusters franchise as something that can be fun for kids and adults is something that I think is really smart. You have Jason Reitman, who I trust because he comes from the family lineage of Ghostbusters, and Paul Rudd, who generally is likable, does great movies. They're kind of recentering this franchise with a sort of Stranger Things approach. It feels a little kind of Ghostbusters Force Awakens, and I really like the idea of just taking this new generation and showing them this world and getting them excited for it, because I hope the audience has the same reaction. And if I don't like it, maybe kids will.
That sounds good. It's one of the Stranger Things kids is in that. It's Finn Wolfhard's in that, right?
Yeah.
Which is
a little
weird
on the nose.
We've already seen him in Ghostbusters cosplays, anyway. Akeem, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking. There's a couple of horror films that are going to be released later on this year that I'm super excited for. You got Candyman, one of the lesser known horror figures. Like this one looks like it's honestly taking like more of a modern day approach to the story of Candyman. Not necessarily a reboot or a continuation of the franchise, but more of a spiritual successor to the previous films. Nia DaCosta is attached to it, Jordan Peele, so I'm already sold on that. Also, we have Halloween Kills, with the Family Dollar brand, Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers, coming back. No offense. I'm just kidding, everybody, please. Respect the GOAT. He's one of the GOATs. I will say that he's one of the GOATs. He stands up there next to Freddy and Pinhead as well.
I feel like the people behind writing it are like they got the right kind of fans attached to be like, let's do a sequel the way we would have want to see it. So I'm stoked to see about that. And then of course there's Halloween Ends, which is coming out next year, and then we never have to see Halloween again until they reboot it again in 2023 or whatever. Speaking of long-awaited sequels, we're apparently getting The Matrix 4, and we haven't really seen anything for that. So I'm like dying with anticipation and curiosity to see exactly how the hell they bring that to life. And then of course there's Dune, which I'm just very excited about. I want a second Dune. I want more Dune, but Dune. Now, speaking of things that are a little bit kind of a tough sell, there's always the movies that are, how would you describe them? The wild cards. Movies that aren't necessarily based on intellectual properties that have been around longer than we've been alive. Like actual new concepts. I realize that's a tough sell for a lot of people because it's not like a cereal you ate when you were 3. But, we do have a few that are coming out. Brian, what's a smaller movie you're looking forward to?
Well, I unfortunately did not get Green Knight cereal in the 90s, but it sounds delicious. But I am very excited for the movie The Green Knight. I pretty much go out of my way to watch anything that A24 puts out. I'm really hyped for this movie, even if I'm sort of like intentionally not looking at it too much. I don't want to get too spoiled, but basically the long story short of it is Dev Patel is starring as King Arthur's nephew. He has to travel across the land to fight and kill the Green Knight. On the way, he fights monsters and ghosts and probably a bunch of other awesome stuff. And I don't want to say anymore or know anymore because I'm already completely sold. I like movies that sort of feel completely brand new and disconnected from sprawling cinematic universes. And this feels like it could be one of those sleeper hit movies, like one of those movie of the year contenders that people fight about, like if it's divisive or, love it or hate it. Because I know there were movies like The Lighthouse and Annihilation and Mother that were very love it or hate it movies, and I ended up liking all of them. So bring on weird ass artsy films. I want to see them.
I mean, that's technically based on one of the oldest intellectual proproperties in history, but I'll allow it. Akeem,
True.
What about you?
I got to say, Last Night in Soho, baby, that is looking so damn good. I honestly wish I could have like lucid dreams about being someone famous in a bygone era to help me shape my present self. And this movie just it's seems like it's a murder mystery that's being uncovered through the dreams, the lucid dreams of the main protagonist, seen through the eyes of the person she is in the past. I don't know. It's a weird departure for Edgar Wright. Like I remember him for Hot Fuzz. This is like nothing like Hot Fuzz, and I'm totally looking forward to this just because it's something different.
All right, Brian Akeem, thank you so much for joining me. And for you at home, make sure you stick around because next up we've got a live cannon fodder. We're going to be talking about Star Wars, like what is Star Wars doing with the High Republic? We're going to break that down, plus Star Wars Visions, which is an anime, and the Book of Boba Fett, which is actually a show, not a book. Stick around. We'll be right back.